Almost always. I remember the moment, I was 8 or 9 years old, when I opened my mother's great big collected works of Shakespeare, and I think I found the sort of heaviness and size of this volume very exciting. And I remember reading a bit of it, which I can't have understood at that age, but I think I was just enjoying the feeling of reading it. And I remember thinking as I closed the book, I could do this, which is quite precocious actually, it makes me laugh now, but it was the moment. And from that moment on, I think I pretty much always took writing quite seriously. So right through my teenage years, I was always writing some novel or other in an exercise book, and yeah, being fairly serious about being an author. I'd love to be one of those people who writes every morning for a certain length of time or a certain amount of words, but I'm not really like that. I write as and when I can, and it depends on what else is going on in life. So when the stuff with kids that I have to do, sometimes a day or two will go by and I won't really have been able to get into the novel that I'm trying to write. But I am lucky in the sense that I think the moment there's nothing in the way of me writing, I'm never blocked for 1 second. I can sit down, I can write. I just never get stuck, and I never don't write when I have the space. My favourite way to write is to go away. We have a little house in Suffolk, and I'm very lucky I get to escape there just every so often. So if I go there for, say, 4 days, I can write in exactly the way I want to write, which is actually I'll get up very early in the morning and start. I'll take very long breaks through the day. But when I do take a break, I don't have to talk to anyone. I don't have to make supper for anyone, and the novel stays in my head, and that's a very perfect way of writing. I was lucky in the sense that the first novel I ever wrote, the first novel I completed, got published. That was Sleepwalking, my first novel. I started it, I was on maternity leave with our second child, and I think I did have a job as well, but I suddenly panicked and thought I was going to be an author, and I actually hadn't written a novel. I sat down and started writing it. I completed it. It took me about a year and a half, and I had another baby while I was writing it, amazingly. I finished this novel, and I didn't really know what to do with it. I started looking up agents in the Writers and Artists Yearbook, which was very helpful, and I selected about 4. Was I sent an extract from my novel to a writing contest run by Elle magazine, and really luckily Hilary Mantel was the judge, and I won it, and I won £1,000, which immediately I knew I could put towards childcare to write another novel. But I think much more importantly, winning that competition meant I could say to agents when I sent them my novel, an extract from this novel just won a competition, and I think that did matter. I'm sure it made them read it rather than it just going straight on some slush pile. I always start a novel with almost nothing in my head. It doesn't matter. It's usually just one tiny little thing, like an image or an idea, or even sometimes just a sense of an atmosphere. With Sleepwalking, I didn't know what to write about. I was obviously having babies myself, and I think I ended up writing about a pregnant woman sort of inevitably. But the image that really started the book for me was I saw this ghost of a very wretched young boy standing in front of a fridge in someone's kitchen. I mean, I didn't see it in real life. I saw it in my head, and that was what began the novel. And in fact, it was at the beginning of the novel, but of course later it went somewhere else in the novel. It wasn't the beginning, but that's what started it. With each of my novels, it's a different but similar thing, sort of one idea, one tiny thing. And for me, inspiration is a funny thing, because writing a novel to me feels very much like staring into a very dark room and you can almost see nothing, and then someone lights a candle and you can just see the outlines of things coming into focus. And by the time you're nearly at the end of writing that novel, there's a pretty bright light shining in that room and you can see everything. And that's how it feels to me, and I think that's the closest I can get to describing what inspiration feels like. It's a very nice feeling. There's kind of obvious advice, but it's funny how rarely people seem to follow it. If you want to write a novel, you've got to write. It's no good saying, when I get some time off from work, when I get the right room, when I get the right computer, when the kids are a bit older. You know, it's amazing how often people say this. You actually just need to go and sit in a room and start writing. And the way I did it was, a friend told me a very good bit of advice, which is, don't be daunted by the fact you don't appear to have any time. Tell yourself you're going to write for 5 minutes every single day. Make sure you do the 5 minutes. Don't tell yourself off if you don't manage more. But actually, of course, in the end, you do start doing more than 5 minutes because you want to. But it was a very good bit of advice because it's not daunting. The other bit of advice I would say is read. Just read and read and read. Don't listen to these authors who say, oh, you'll affect how you're writing if you read other authors. You need to read. Reading, I think, is what helps people write, particularly with a first novel. And the only other thing that I think is a good bit of advice that I made up myself, because I've never heard of anyone else doing it, is read first novels. If you're writing a first novel, it's no good reading Updike or Philip Roth or Iris Murdoch. I'm just naming some of the people who I think are great, because you'll either try and ape their voice, which isn't a good thing, or worse, you'll be very daunted and you won't feel that anything you can write is good enough. But if you read first novels that have been published, if they're wonderful, then I think that's very inspiring, and there are plenty of wonderful first novels out there. And if they're not that good, then it's also inspiring, because you think, my God, if this has been published, well, so can mine. And I did that, I stuck to that, and it really did help me. It pushed me forward, actually, and gave me faith in my novel.